You're listening to Am I The Bolcast, the only podcast on the internet about Magic the Gathering, a card game, and I'm your host, Mike Carrozza. With me, as always, my co-host, Michael Solani.
Oh, yeah, I've got so many bad opinions for this episode, Mike.
Oh, is it anything like your rampant growth article?
No, they're much worse. Let me tell you, I've got
yeah,
some
because
bad
that was a
ones.
good opinion.
No
Also
Rhystic
joining
Study
us-
anymore. Go ahead.
No more. Also joining us is our genius producer, the only genius in the room on Zoom. It's Morgan Sanchez. Hi, Morgan.
Hey, Mike. Yeah, only correct opinions for me over here, so it's going to be an interesting episode.
Oh, we're gonna have a rivalry.
I didn't mean to imply that you're not a genius, Solani. I
did.
It just felt like it
I
made it
definitely,
rhyme. Oh, you did? Okay.
yes.
Okay, good. Well, then good. The only genius in the room. Boom.
Thank you.
Zoom. Yeah. Oh, did you hate that? You cringed immediately.
I feel so disliked right now.
Okay, but
No,
see,
no,
the
come
redeeming quality, Solani, everything changed the day that rampant growth article came out for me, because I finally felt so seen and validated by
I loved it.
another correct
I agreed.
opinion, a truth,
Opinion.
if you will, like a truth in that rampant growth is bad. So
Yeah, I read an article that rampant growth is bad. Well, it's
I
not
think
bad. It's just there are better options.
There are better options, but hey, guess what? It's the game where you choose what you're playing. Have fun with it. If you
Boo.
love rampant growth, don't be mean about it, but there are better options objectively.
Mike, if I wanted to get one of these better options, where would I get one of them? You know, like Birds of Paradise or like, I don't know, Ornithopter of Paradise.
Honestly, I have an idea. Let me ask Morgan what she's been using. Morgan has been trying to get all the Assassin's Creed cards on top of completing her full Odyssey cycle set. Morgan, tell us where you get your cards these days.
So I have managed to accrue $600 in Card Sphere money, which is real money that I made by sending out cards that I don't want to get cards that I do want, which are cards that you don't want. So if you want to have your own personal buy list, you can just put your cards up on Card Sphere, send them off to whoever wants them. I'm offering like 100% plus for a lot of the Assassin's Creed foils, like just random etched foils. What is it? The Ezio panorama cards that like make a picture, kind of how Lord of the Rings
you like
was.
the scene cards.
The scene cards in foil. So if you're cracking any Assassin's Creed packs, you can go to my profile, which is cardsphere.com/user/47828. And you can start sending me stuff that you don't want, because odds are I want it.
Yeah, there's a good chance. I'll say maybe let's also remind our listeners that they are a sponsor of the show. Morgan's just an avid user of CardSphere and has been since before they even ever sponsored us. And I would like to think that it's because of her enthusiasm that CardSphere is actually a sponsor of the show. So, you know, your cards are your wallet. Go trade online, cardsphere.com, get your cards here, and make sure to check out the referral link in the description below. Whether you're listening to this on your podcast app or on YouTube, I'll be sure to include a referral link in this episode and in the last 3 episodes, of which they've been a sponsor. So thank you so much, CardSphere. Also, everybody, help out Morgan with her freaking Assassin's Creed stuff. Come on now. Help her out. You know what I need help with?
What?
Okay, this is going to sound so stupid. I remember a while ago that they had like Street Fighter sleeves, and I can't find them anywhere. I wish there was like a card sphere for sleeves instead.
Like sleeves that are like promotional sleeves?
No, I don't think they're promotional. I think they were just like limited run. But so I saw them, I regretted not getting them, and now I'm eyeing I was going through a bunch of legends like this week, and I saw Ryu from Street Fighter, World Warrior, a Boros training card with an untap symbol in its cost with a discard. Like I love everything about this card. I think it's so sick. And then I remembered there were literal sleeves with this character on them, and I regret so much that I didn't buy them at the time, and I wish I could find them. But yeah, I mean, I wish there was a way to get more sleeves. Also, like, all the sleeves I have are like, what do you guys do with the sleeves when like they break? Because I had a deck that I was playing with, and like 2 sleeves popped, and now I'm just like, I can't find these sleeves anywhere.
Gotta re-sleeve the deck.
Yeah, but then I use the rest of them to like sleeve important cards. Like, in my collection. Like this here card that was in the sideboard. I have a Pitiless Plunderer here in a green sleeve from an old lands deck that I took apart, and I just, what do you guys do with your sleeves? What's your relationship like with your sleeves?
I only use them to sleeve tokens. If it's a new deck, if I got a deck, if I have used sleeves, I only use them on tokens.
Okay,
that
fair.
is the truth.
It sounded like you said you only sleeve tokens.
No, I only sleeve I have beautiful ornate deck boxes.
I was gonna say you
for my
spoken like a true Selesnya player. Like a Selesnya player would only sleeve their tokens.
Just birthday suited up.
It's the most powerful card from Dragon's Maze is that Voice of Resurgence token. I have to sleeve it, I
can't believe it. I can't believe you. You ass.
It's important. But no, if I've used them before, they get relegated to sleeving tokens or maybe sleeving for storage. Oh man, what is that?
That's
I use it for
that's the switchboard. Mike, you got to answer that.
But I was talking.
We got a call? You were talking. Well, now I gotta get to talking with our caller. All right, let's go talk to the caller. We'll be right back on the other end. Let's have a chat. You're on the Bolcast. Who we got on the horn this morning?
This is Sam from Rhystic Studies. Mike, I'm calling because I saw you in Chicago and you showed me this hideous playmat, dude. What is that all about? Can you get that out of my face, man? God, horrid.
Oh my God, Sam, did you really call just for this? My faithless looting playmat is a prized possession. You can't do this to me.
Boo, that art was made in Microsoft Paint, dude. I could do that, bro. Come on, that's not art.
Well, as a fan of your eye for artistic endeavors, I can't wait to see what you do in MS Paint. I'll say that much. Okay, let's turn this into a positive interaction. I'm not gonna let you just.
I thought the whole premise of the show is I call in and I'm the bolus the whole time, right? I just get to harass and throw eggs at you for 45 minutes.
Hey man, if that's how you want to approach it, I feel like it'll make it easy for us to deliberate afterwards.
Great.
But no, we're talking Magic pet peeves and a story where you might have been the bolus in a Magic context. So it's like, we keep it. Well, you don't have to be mean to my beautiful guy over here.
That's
my
right.
Faithless Looting by Carly Mays over here.
That's
Get out
right.
of here. Don't be mean. That was a great video, by the way.
Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm happy to talk with you. I'm just obviously busting the bolus here, but yeah, you gotta crack it open. Good morning.
It's 9 a.m. over there.
That's right.
And you're firing off on all these cylinders. You've been up since 6?
Yes, I have been up since 6. You're right. I was up. I've been sick this weekend, so I didn't sleep at all. So I'm on like hour 30. Why not?
No way. Okay, so we're gonna get a little bit of delirium. Keep it in Magic, baby.
That's right.
What you got? 4 types in your graveyard over there? What
you know it. More than 4 types at this point. Cripes, I lost count. But yeah, I'm stoked to talk with you. We can just shoot the proverbial scam and go from there.
Hell yeah. Well, welcome to the show, buddy. And shout out. First of all, I said great video earlier. A truly evergreen comment for your work in general, period, full stop. Folks listening, if you have, and I don't know how this would happen, if you've never heard of or never watched a Rhystic Studies video on YouTube, and yet you're listening to this, well, lucky me, I get to tell you about this. Go to YouTube and watch literally any of Sam's videos. They are incredible. I think Red Deck Wins is one of the best videos out there for Magic. If you're trying to be like, hey, do you want to understand why the culture of Magic is so like, when you're in it, and it's like, it can be fun and there's like different subcultures to it. You show them Red Deck Wins and they're like, I don't understand what these cards are, but I get who this guy is. I get who this player is who plays the Red Deck Wins deck. It's so good. The foils video was an hour and a half, but I breezed by like it was 20 minutes, and I was like, oh God, I watched the whole thing. I didn't know. I thought I was gonna piecemeal it because I didn't have time. No, it turns out I had time. So if you're not familiar, go ahead and watch a Rhystic Studies video today. Do it.
Do it now. Just, yeah, cut me off right now. You can be the bolus by just cutting me off of this episode and go and watch a video. No, thank you so much. I put a lot of work into the videos, and one of the better, the whole goal for me really is to make a video that anybody can watch and follow along with. I was a professor at a university in grad school. I don't want to call myself a professor, but I was an instructor in grad school. And I've grown up in various roles where I'm a teacher of some sort. And I think, like, fundamentally, I just want to bring that same sense of translation. Like, when you're teaching a class, you have to find a common ground and help folks grow into what you're trying to present them, be it like trivial knowledge or ideas or a glimpse into a subculture like magic. So I try to make the videos like as watchable from the outside as possible. And one of the better comments always is like, hey, my girlfriend, my boyfriend, my significant other doesn't play Magic, but they love to watch your videos because they can follow along and they get an idea of why I love Magic so much.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that's the resounding effect for you, especially if you're really entrenched in Magic. It's like, how do you make something that can appeal to folks who know nothing and appeal to folks like me who have been playing the game 10 years and have been around the game for 20 years, So yeah. That's just that side of it's that pedagogical approach that I have from grad school that's in me. But I'm glad you love the Red Deck Wins video too. That's one of my all-time favorites. There's like, I don't like many of the videos. Once I'm done with them, I'm done with them. But like that one, I'll still like, if I had to choose to present a video of my own, I'd probably choose that one too.
I think it's one of those, it feels like, because I think you mentioned this on an episode of Pie Break with Dan Sheehan about Red Deck Wins also being like a perfect encapsulation of like an archetype as well, and how it could possibly be part of a series. And when you said that, I was like, I don't what. Let's see where the series goes. Like, how could that? Because Red Deck Wins, there's such a. You mentioned in the podcast that like you do a lot of you with that video, you did a lot of finding stuff that isn't Magic but feels Red Deck Wins, and that's where the skateboarding stuff came in. And truly, it was like, I don't know, man. You did such a great job with that video. It's hard to describe without just being like, go watch it.
Yeah,
you should watch it. If you have yet to watch Red Deck Wins, go watch it. Come back and then we'll discuss it, because it's hard to talk about all the elements of it being like, you've got like the showdowns between Red Deck Wins and like the other decks that are like trying to tech against it, but just the heart of Red Deck Wins is like, I'm just doing what I love. It's just
I think that to solve this dilemma of yours in terms of describing it, I found writing that video and putting all that stuff together that Red Deck Wins was less of a description and more of like an anthem or a motto or a sentiment,
Yeah.
Like Red Deck Wins is not, we're not talking about Magic. Like Red Deck Wins is how I conclude the video with Jaws jumping over the Leon 25. Like that's the attitude of Red Deck Wins, And I guess one of the better parts of that video for me were finding all the clips of Patrick Sullivan talking about red decks, and all of the ways he describes red decks are just like outrageously hilarious the way he talks about red decks. But yeah, like Red Deck Wins to me is more of a, it's like a, I guess motto is a weak word. It's something bigger than that, It's like an ideology in some ways. It's like an approach to life, It's like a philosophy. So I tried to find all sorts of different ways that we could apply that to other, topics. But yeah, and selfishly, I just wanted to make a video about Magic and skateboarding and one of my favorite bands, Pup, who are Canadian, like yourself.
Yes, they are.
Friends from the north.
Guys, buddy, let me tell you something. Pup being so big and also just being guys I met in a basement at a comedy festival one year is just so wild to me.
Sick.
It is crazy to have been able to like be around such people who have in their lifetimes become like so huge, unfathomably huge in some respect, and then you just like bump into them and they're like, oh hey man, I'm just going to get a coffee, you want to hang out? Or like, I'll just my buddy Dave Ross is a very funny comic living in New York, and he was in California. He's just so funny. He's got an album out called The Only Man Who Has Ever Had Sex, which is such a dumb title. And he's just such a goofball, but I think he directed like 2 Pup music videos. So when he was in Toronto visiting when I was living there, he was like, yeah, my friend's going to join us at this Thai place. And who shows up? Nestor from Pup, who's like, oh, hey, yeah, we met. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know Mike. Yeah, we know Mike. Okay, hey, okay, well, now it's all friends. You know what I mean? So it's like, all right, cool. Pup's doing a great job. If you haven't listened to Pup, I highly recommend The Dream Is Over. I think their self-titled album's amazing, but The Dream Is Over, for a while, DVP was the song that I would go up on stage to. It's so good. It's the perfect walk-up music.
Nice.
These days, it's Clean by Gulfer. Shout out to Gulfer, Montreal band too.
Good. Yeah, Pup are the best, they're the realest, and yeah, they're the echo of the sentiment of Red Deck wins. I like that there's a little blue in there too. I respect that.
I feel like I could talk about music forever because you've posted videos of you playing music, and I'm like, I love that band. I didn't realize Sam liked that band. You know what I mean? I feel like we could chat about anything all day, but I do think we have to get into the meat of your call, which is Sam of Rhystic Studies. Tried to pick up my dog because she was right here, but Sam of Rhystic Studies. Do you have a magic pet peeve or a story where you may have been the bowler?
Yeah, I listed quite a few pet peeves. I realized as I was brainstorming for this episode that a lot of stuff ticks me off after all. In a tongue-in-cheek way, I think like the Commander format is my biggest pet peeve, believe it or not.
Huge.
I know, dude.
Oh my God. Okay.
That's an atomic bomb. You know, it breaks my heart in a way because like I learned Magic 10 years ago playing Cube and Commander. Like I was taught the game through these singleton formats that were more on the casual side of Magic, you know? Like I would be binging the Pro Tour and following all of the high level competitive spike stuff. But when I was playing with people that were playing in a very informal way. So I had this like beautiful balance of like, okay, I'm learning the game system by watching the pros do it at the highest level. And then we're going and chilling and having beers and like eating pizza and playing with Commander cards. So back then, the spirit of the format really still felt like that. And I guess one of my pet peeves in general with Commander now is like, it's way too big for itself, for its own good, you know? And that kind of breaks my heart a little bit because the spirit of Commander for me, what I try to keep with when I play Commander, especially with this like new bit that we've got going on with Dan, you mentioned Dan, Tyler, who you met in Chicago, Roy Graham from The Story, at all these Magic cons, like a few months before we go to them, we send a text in a group text called Build for the Bit. And the text is just like a prompt. Like you're going to get a 1 or 2 word prompt and you have to build a Commander deck that fits the prompt. And the whole spirit is like, we're not playing to win. We're not playing with good cards. Like you're playing as like it's as if it's an improv comedy show where I can't wait to show you what I came up with type of thing. There's like a giddy energy. You sit at the table. And for example, Chicago, like, all right, we're going to Chicago in February. It's going to be cold. So the prompt for Chicago was the cold, you know, take that and run with it. How are you going to build a Commander deck that fits the cold? And I will say that Tyler was the most clever of all this. Tyler built a deck. He's like, all right, when it's cold, what do you need? You need layers. You need to keep warm. You put on layers. So he built a deck, dude. He built a deck that every single card interacted with one of the layers in Magic's rule system. God. And he gave us these little cue cards. He hand wrote them on Infinite tokens, every single layer of Magic. And he's like, you know, top to bottom, this is how they resolve. Brilliant, right? That's the spirit of Commander. I'm like, we should be doing more. Fun. Dude, we have to do more of that, you know?
Yeah, I'm with you in the sense that like, so like before we started recording, I did want to say I don't want to date the episode like in terms of like when we're recording this, but I feel like this is so perfect for it that I do want to bring it up. Now we've got Outlaws at Thunder Junction, and I say now knowing this was months ago, listener, trust me, I get it. Outlaws of Thunder Junction, Obeka, Splitter of Seconds was spoiled. And there's this feeling from standard or limited players thinking like there is nothing at the moment that would benefit from getting more upkeeps in this limited environment or really anything worthwhile in standard or constructed. Is this maybe a set piece for Bloomborough to follow? Maybe. But the idea is, what is this very obviously Commander plant doing in my standard set is kind of the feeling of a couple of these posts I've seen. And as much as I love Obeka, like, trust me, I built months ago from the Doctor Who set, the Ninth Doctor and Clara Oswald, Grixis upkeep deck. Literally what Obeka does. Obeka Splitter of Seconds says whenever you deal combat damage, you get that many upkeep steps after this combat. Crazy. It's like the perfect card for the deck. But I've had this deck for like months now, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. That's like nice. If I, you know what I mean? Like, it's pretty interesting. But it is kind of like I had to come up with that idea. I had to come up with like finding where to make that happen. And I found that process extremely rewarding.
Yeah, no doubt. You know, you open up the monkey's paw in a certain way and fine enough. I think that part of the charm always was that sense of being a little clever, a little bit creative with an implicit goal that wasn't so explicitly written directly for you. That's kind of the spirit of the early days of Commander. Like, you felt like you were getting away with a concept or an idea that maybe shouldn't exist or was not designed to exist, and somehow it worked. Right. And that was the charm. And I think that's partially what I've found in other formats that are wonky and weird. Like, the spirit of Commander now has just shifted. Like, the epicenter of the spirit of Commander is either still within Commander because you do stuff like what we do, build for the bit, or you look at other weird, wacky formats. Like, I got to shout out Ryan Overturf for building and kind of creating and concepting and founding this idea of the Two-Bert, which is just like a 2-person cube. And that's an amazing, cool format. He's written a lot about it. You know, he's got a lot of literature and a lot of theory on it, but he's kind of now crafting a small space within the giant umbrella that is cube design. And then you look at people like Nick Floyd, who have been using the language of Magic forever to create new games within the game, you know, with Forgetful Fish or Dan. And he's still kind of like ruminating. And that's where I feel so like inspired by Magic, because no doubt in my mind, 10 years from now, we're going to find a new way to play this game in a way that was kind of a happy accident from the language that we invented with it, you know? So that's where I feel like you can still preserve that in Commander to a certain extent, whatever. Right now, I'm interested in other weird formats like Cube that still feel like that, you know, where nobody's looking right now at this. This is the punk rock show in the basement where you're like, all right, let's put something weird together, you know?
The Cube thing is the resurgence of Cube right now is very interesting in a couple ways. And first of all, it's fun because it's like I'm in a group chat with like Rachel and Dan and like Casey and a bunch of other folks, AD, who are getting into making a cube. You know what I mean? They're like, this is my new obsession, is I love vintage cube, and I can't believe I haven't been doing this. I think about Commander all this time, and I need something that isn't Commander that I can still like kind of like find new fun in. But what I found is like just watching Angelo Guerrera's got an Innistrad cube that he's been working on for many years, that when I went to Commander Sealed last year, one of the big things for me was like, I need to play this cube, because he posts pack one, pick one on Twitter all the time. And I'm like, this looks nuts and I can't wait to play it. And his attitude around it was, let's get 8 people. If there are 8 people, I'll sit out. I don't mind. But if there are 7, I'll join. And I was like, interesting, you know, that's fun. And he was like, well, it's good for me to have data. But also, he put it this way, he was like, I built this thing because it's my love letter to Innistrad, but also it's a gift to my friends.
Yes.
And that's what it feels like. The Layers deck, build for the bit. It's a gift for your friends, the community aspect of it. That's the part of it that I think some people are latching onto with Cube.
Yeah. I think it's such a gateway from, we've always talked about Cube as like the end game. Cube is really the end game. People are like, oh, if Magic dies tomorrow, we could play Commander for the next 50 years. I'm like, sure enough, but guaranteed we will be cubing in the retirement home, you know? It is a perfect, that is the actual multiplayer format, because like what you're describing is, sure, we play heads up Magic 1v1 after we draft, but the draft is the coming together and the let's have a beer, let's joke and laugh while we open the packs and we unwrap this gift. Like, that's exactly what you're describing. I build Commander decks with the presence in mind of how the other people at the table will feel. And that's also kind of a paradigm shift in Commander, because you build this like super solid deck that you're excited to unwrap and show and play. But sometimes it gets a little solitaire-y or whatever. Like, I think the paradox of Commander is that it's a 4-player game where everyone is trying to play by themselves. You know? That's kind of the horrid part of Commander, which is why it's a pet peeve of mine in the abstract, and why Cube kind of solves a lot of those issues. But to me, it's like, building a Commander deck, that's the most fun part, is putting together all those pieces. You can do that with Cube infinitely, but then it's an 8-player, game instead of 1v3 in a certain sense, right?
Right.
I have another pet peeve for you that is way more specific.
Okay, I'm into it.
Okay.
Hit me with as many as you want. We'll talk about whichever.
I just figured I'll give you something abstract that we could ruminate on forever, but this is a podcast about a specific pet peeve, so I'm going to come with you. All right.
Okay, here we go.
My pet peeve in Magic is
Jake from this LGS. This guy.
Yeah,
It's
dude.
under my
That's
skin.
right. The one guy. Dude, my pet peeve is this guy, Mike Carazza.
God,
I think he lives in
boy.
Canada somewhere, man.
Oh,
He's got
no.
this hideous ass playmat. I mean, Gulp. Yeah. No, my pet peeve is busted ass sleeves. I let me get on my soapbox real quick before I wash myself off. Listen, I am all for busted ass Magic cards. I love a well played Magic card. Anyone that knows me knows I'm all for that nice patina of a well worn Magic card to death.
Yes.
It's my white whale in Magic right now is to find a slabbed Lotus that is graded 0. You know, like I want a 0 out of 10 Lotus, like a natural 0, a natty 0.
What's that
if you
gonna
will.
take? Like a friggin' bullet hole through? Like,
I don't know, because I got close on Twitter. I found one circulating like a month or two ago. Someone posted that was like a 1/5. And I was like, this is still way too intact to be a 1/5. Like, how is this a 1/5? That's a 4 or 5 to me, you know? Anyway, so I love busted ass Magic cards. Again, the white whale is a 0 out of 10 Lotus that's slabbed. There is no excuse for you to have busted Magic sleeves. Come on. Sleeves are all over the place. They're abundant. They're like less than most Magic cards in terms of price. Suit up your car with good tires, you know? Like if you have a 76 whatever Camaro, at least put some tires on it. Like that's how I feel about it. I don't want to see grubby, destroyed sleeves. I hate it. It's like it's such an ick for me. So that's my specific pet peeve. What do you think about that?
That is specific. That is very specific. Now, to get more specific, describe a grubby sleeve.
Oh,
what about
buddy,
them,
dude? It's the synesthesia. I use this word in my talk. You remember my little art chat?
Yeah, I do. You tell it. Yeah, absolutely.
If I look at your sleeve and I can guess what it smells like, that we have a problem. I should not be able to know what guess what your sleeve smells like across the table. If I hear your sleeve cracking when you shuffle, when you mash shuffle, and I hear them things sticking together and cracking. Oh God, it's like the most dissatisfying thing. I hate a sleeve that like is really cloudy on the front, and it's not because it was a poorly designed sleeve. Some sleeves are just cloudier than others, whatever. But if I look down and I see, oh, that's a mint condition Magic card in a sleeve that makes it look like it was dunked in dishwashing detergent, you know, like that. That is what I'm talking. That type of sleeve. And I bet if you're listening, you've probably come across a sleeve like this. Just do yourself a favor. $10, buy a nice set of sleeves. They don't have to be brand spanking. Like that's also a problem. But my goodness, let it go. If it's grubby, just change the tires.
Oh wow. Okay, so you're coming at it from the synesthetic part. Okay. Let's lean into this. Knowing how they smell, hearing them. I mean, do you taste them too? Jeez, it's like, what do you? Hey, buddy, that's a marked card now, huh? Switch it up, please. I think that when I could tell that they're splitting a little bit at the top, and that any day now, one misshuffle is gonna mean like, oh no, I gotta go get more sleeves. Do you guys mind if I get more sleeves and sleeve up? And we're in the LGS, and I'm like. Oh,
that's it.
Why did you do? Why are you doing this?
You got a flat tire. Like no one likes helping the dude.
A flat tire.
You know what I'm saying? Like no one wants to go and help their buddy because they got a flat tire. You should have taken care of that months ago. Preventative maintenance, my man. So
yeah, you didn't hit a pothole that you didn't see coming. This is a flat tire from just flat out wear.
Yep. So that's a specific one. I got one more for you.
This is a particular pet peeve.
I know.
And I love that you brought it up.
Yeah.
Last one. Hit us with
last pet peeve for the day. Another very specific pet peeve is Sloppy
All
land
about it.
management. Sloppy
Yes!
land management. Okay.
Yes.
There's a couple reasons for this. One, we get together and play Magic every week with my buddies, and we've started to like sharpen up our play, like no takesies, backsies.
Nice.
If you tapped wrong, then you tapped wrong. Like it's kind of
okay.
it's gonna make you. It sucks to go through that, but it makes you a better Magic player. It's an unforgiving type of thing because there's no stakes. It's like, of course you can tap again, but so sloppy land management is not just like how you tap, but also physically how your lands are laid out on your side of the table. It drives me up the wall when I look over and my opponent's lands are all over the place. Just a pile of, pile of cards. Because if you've ever watched me play, I am super meticulous about how I lay the lands out and where I tap them and how I organize them. And I know that's just a personal quality, but like, again, it came from watching these pros play on the Pro Tour.
100%.
One guy that stands out is like Patrick Chapin. When he plays on a feature match, he lays all of his lands out in a grid layer or a grid kind of, formats, like 2 rows. But that's because he's very conscientious of like what color mana he has access to. That's just a pro player thing, Right. And I noticed watching pros, like they are super, super in tune with where they place their lands because it's like a punishing environment. If you mistap, you could lose. So like, just like really sloppy, ugly land management. When I can't look over and see really fast what you're working with, that drives me up the wall. And I don't know, that is such a pet peeve because there's probably no reason or rhyme for it, but it just like irks me,
It irks you. So, couple things here. Shout out to Jason Alt, Mr. 75% tap. I never liked it, and you're like, whatever, I don't care. Tap him all the way.
Yeah,
tap him all the way.
Go all the way. I've played with him when he does that. My question for Alt is, were you doing that before Magic Arena? Like, is this a bit because you feel like you're playing on Arena where you just tap him a little bit, I don't know. We'd have to ask him about that.
He's been doing this for long before Arena.
All right.
He's been a proponent of this tap. And also, your lands in front of the rest of your permanents, lands on top of the board, get that out of here. I need to know what your lands are up to, but not that bad. We're at a point where I need to know what God, there's so many things on your battlefield.
Yes.
Get your tapped forests out of the way. You know what I mean?
That's a bit that some pro players also kind of commit to is lands in front. I know that's like a tilting, like being a troll type of thing.
Exactly.
Fine enough,
I forget who it was, but there was that guy who like presented he played upside down.
Yeah, that was Adrian Sullivan at Pro Tour Dragons at Tarkir, maybe. Yeah, and he played upside down the whole time. I'm like, you can't let him keep getting away with this. Like, this is clearly him just being, a troll about it. And they tried to give, I remember that, like, they're like, oh, Adrian teaches players how to play Magic, so he always plays upside down. I'm like, no, he doesn't.
No,
this is
he doesn't.
not. This is a lie. Yeah. He's just trolling the whole tournament right now.
This is mind games, baby.
Dude.
And you know what? I respect it.
Yeah.
Like it's mind games, but you're like, okay,
yeah,
I see you.
Yeah,
this is a pro move.
Yeah.
This is like man, I can't think of it, but there's a movie like a football movie, comedy movie. God, am I really thinking about Adam Sandler's The Longest Yard, where they like try to psych out one of the guards by having something painted on a guy's face or something?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Yeah,
but it's mind games.
Yes.
Hey, fair. You're. It's not just the deck you're going up against. Do you know that?
Yes.
Right? You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
Your opponent's mental fortitude is also on the line. It is, for all intents and purposes, your mind is your biggest tool in this game.
Yes.
So, it's fair to attack that resource too. And so that's an interesting point.
I can't wait until the next guy comes and sits across from me at the Magic Con with sleeves from 95 and he puts all his lands in a stack. I just know I'm asking for it at this point. And he asks, you want to play Commander? Like, okay, I get it.
Okay.
Yeah.
No. I need to sit right in front of him. You're like, okay.
Yes, dude.
Do you have a particular way you set up your lands? Because I have a way I set up my lands and like mana rocks and stuff. But are you like as particular about it as like you have an exact positioning?
Yeah, like a good quick example is I play Mimeoplasm in Commander. One of my favorite Commander decks is just a is just a really dirtily cycling deck, but
Fun.
but it's a 3-color deck. So you have all like basics and dual lands and also a couple of 3-color lands. So like left to right, on the far left, I draw from the left side with my left hand. I put my library on the left side. I found that is way easier. Left to right, it's Wooburg order with the basics.
Okay.
So it's always like white, blue, black, red, green. So for that deck, it's blue, black, green. And then after that, it's like the duels, you know, the shocklands or whatever, the temples, you know, those don't matter as much. I'm not trying to like micromanage like a library book, you know, like it's not alphabetical order like... in terms of that. But yeah, then it's like a pile like separately. So like all the basics are kind of stacked together horizontally. And then it's the duels. And then, you know, if there are fetch lands or tri lands or whatever on the far right. And that just helps me like prioritize what colors of mana I have access to. Again, it goes back to this feeling of like, I want to play really well. I want to play with precision and I want to be good at Magic ultimately, even if I'm playing casually. And that helps me do that.
Okay. I think similarly, I have like basics and I kind of mishmash the non-utility lands on one side. So I'll have like basics and duels over on the left. And I draw from my right. Just a little mirror action. And then I'll have kind of my utility lands like, hey, I have a Sarah Sanctum or like a Cabal Coffers here, you know, they'll be a little separate from the rest, or like even the tap Karoo lands, like the bounce lands that tap for 2, those will be in that pile or like around them. And then over to the right is my mana rocks, just to be like, those are separate. But then when I tap them, I'll kind of like tap and you know, I'll group them up for what I'm tapping for. And I'll be like, okay. And then when somebody else's turn, I'm like, well, no, I got to organize this back to where I want them, you know?
Yeah.
I like having them and knowing where I can draw these sources from. But then when a chromatic lantern hits, I'm like, I don't care. It's like, I'll put them in the pile. Hey, there's 9 of them.
Yeah.
Until you get rid of this dumb thing, this is just a pile.
That's good.
Except for the utility lands.
Of course. That's a good way to do it too. There's just a million ways to kind of organize, but I look towards certain players. Like Reed Duke also stands out to me as someone who has very good land management, and I admire in terms of watching him play. So it comes from that.
I'll say that like looking at a sloppy managed land base, oftentimes what I'll see, like, because this isn't necessarily like a big pet peeve, but you've awoken something in bringing this up, because I don't think I've talked about this. If you've got your mana rocks entwined or like even your mana dorks mixed in with your lands,
yep,
stop it.
Stop that.
I can't, like, the amount of times where like an austere command will go off or like a vandal blast will hit, and then somebody will untap and you're like, how do you still have that soul ring?
Yep.
I'm like, what? I have the soul ring. It's like, there was a vandal blast. Like, oh yeah. I guess
yes,
Mr. Cheaty Pants over here.
Yes. This carries over with how I organize the board. I always have all my permanents grouped up by permanent type in general, you know, or relevant ones or whatever. I'm with you.
Yeah.
I've seen that even at high levels, like back when Affinity was a deck in Modern and folks would put Mox Opals in the back, you know, that, or the old Arbor, or the old, not Arbor Elf, the freaking Dryad Arbor. Thank you. That whole thing ended up in a rules change, but it's all just about clarity. That's not the type of angle shooting we want to deal with. We don't want to deal with like you trying to hide things from me. That sucks. Don't be that way.
Yeah.
And also make it look good. You know, put your rocks in the front. Come on. Yeah. It's hard, man. You know, and shout out to Slime Against Humanity. First of all, Dan Sheehan brought for that same bit, the cold. He brought a deck that was like, I have a cold and you have to cure me of this cold. Yes. So he took, instead of thinking about the weather, the cold, he was like, I've got a cold. And he built a Slime Against Humanity deck. Just brilliant. So again, I embrace that. Like, challenge yourself to build for the bit. Give your play group a prompt. Be like $50. The prompt is, for example, in Vegas this year, we're building decks. The prompt is the Sphere.
Nice. Okay. Hell yeah.
So how do you take that?
Yes.
Take that in whatever direction you want. This is such a rule 0000 commander, you know, table anyway. Like, but the Sphere is the prompt. Go. Now what? See what you show up with.
Yeah. And obviously the Vegas Sphere, Wait, what, wasn't there a campaign to get Chaos Orb on this?
Dude, I'm still on that campaign. That's my like another white whale of mine. I was pitching it last year. I was like, guys, Wizards, stop flying us out. Just put all your budget into 30 seconds of putting Chaos Orb on the sphere. Please do it for everyone. It'll be the greatest moment ever. I was on that, I was tweeting about it, whatever. And Jeffrey Palmer, the Living Cards MTG Paddington, our brother, animated it for us, and it looks amazing. I'm like, this
looks so good.
It's like hyper realistic looking because he took a drone shot of the sphere and he just like animated Chaos Orb on the top. I'm like, this is what could be. Like, it looks. Let's make this real. It'll be the greatest. just tell the Magic Con like Saturday night at 11:30. We're putting Chaos Orb for 30 seconds. Go out there. We're going to take a bunch of selfies. Let's do it, So I'm still on that campaign. I know it can't cost a lot because they're selling that advertising space for not that much. And I was like, are there parameters here? But we were in Vegas last year for the Magic Con, and like Mortal Kombat was running ads all weekend on the Sphere. So like, there's not like it's not like, it has to be some elegant, beautiful looking aesthetic thing. It's just an ad space. It's an interactive billboard. So like, just put the orb up. It'll be awesome.
Put the orb up and then a swipe and put the Magic logo being like MagicCon happening now. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep.
Easy. Feels like
easy money. Come on.
I think that takes us to the end here, Sam. Are there any final points? First of all, where do you want people to check you out? Is there anything that you want to impart onto our listeners? Anything in particular that you're like, I need to say this right now?
Right now, I really want you to... that's a good question. What do I want you to do right now? Well, the rallying cry from the recent video and the rallying cry of a lot of my channel is just to make radical art and to do take radical chances with your art and with what you are all about. That's kind of one of the sentiments. That's a Red Deck Win sentiment too. That's a Carly Mazer sentiment. Yeah, rally around radical art. How's that? Is that a good rallying cry? Yeah, let's rally around.
I can dig that.
This year, like even last year, I was like, we need to get weird. Like get closer to weirder stuff,
Yes.
Get a little bit weirder with it because increasingly everything is becoming sterile and a little bit streamlined and mainstream, and like, I don't know. I will tell you that like the last month I bought the Secret Lair in Chicago from Ricardo Cavalo's. This wacky looking red Magic card. His work is so sick to me because it's so unique and has a voice and a vision and a style. I've kept these cards next to my desk for the last month, and they've been my guiding light of like, we need to get weird again. Like let's find the new find the new epicenter to explore. So I think being weird and radical is what I would love for everyone to do this year in Magic and in life.
Nice. That is a very fun rallying cry. I'll tell you this. I support this wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
100%. Get weird in what you're doing. I'll tell you this after the call if you want, but I'm working on my new hour of comedy that I'm going to be recording hopefully at the end of the year for a special /album project. But the most satisfying thing is when you go in with an intention to change something and make it different and weird and strange and new, but you gotta make space for that in yourself. And I found that this is something that it's not just like dive into something different and weird and be like, I'm out of my comfort zone. I think it's important to remember and put this in. Be intentional with your time around what is different from you, because it's so easy to dismiss when it doesn't feel like right, or when you're just diving in. It's not one of these like jump into the pool wholeheartedly. It's like I am putting in my schedule that I'm going to the pool on this day.
Yeah.
I love this sentiment.
Hell yeah.
You're hitting it on the head.
Hell yeah.
Rhystic Studies on Twitter, on YouTube. Sam, it has been a delight. It has been truly something that I've wanted since the inception of this podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for calling in and having a chat about Magic and your pet peeves. Now let's head over to Michael and Morgan, and we're going to discover whether or not you're the bolus. Here we go. Wow, what a surprise. Sam from Rhystic Studies. Are you kidding me? Sam Gaglio of Rhystic Studies. I am so happy you called in. So thrilled to have you on the line. Huge fan. If you have not yet had the pleasure of watching a Rhystic Studies video, I cannot recommend it highly enough. I went on and on about the Red Deck Wins video, the Faithless Looting video, the Foils video, any video of Rhystic Studies that you could pick up and watch, you are going to enjoy. So that rules. Thanks so much for calling in, Sam. We're so happy to have you. Guys, it's time to talk about what Sam brought to the table, because there's a lot, right? Morgan, what do we got?
Yes.
Big table.
Sam is probably one of my favorite people in the community, and I've been watching his stuff for, you could almost say decades now, but we're not going to say that because it's not exactly true. But he is fantastic and a good egg in the community, so we appreciate that he was able to call in and talk to Mike.
I'm so happy he did. Before we get to the question of the episode, we have to remind the listeners at home what the voting system is like here.
Yes. So this is not anyone's first rodeo into the Bolcast, I presume, but so you do know how fair and functional our voting system is.
Exactly.
It starts with a total of it's like I think it's like 5 total. So what happens is that I vote and my vote counts for 1.
1 point.
And then Solani will vote and his vote counts for 1 point.
Okay, that's 2 points for 2 votes.
Yes.
That track.
And so we end it with Carosa's vote, which counts.
That's me.
For 3.
My single vote counts for 3 points.
The one for 3. Yeah.
Okay, so I don't know if we've pointed this out to our listeners before, but if both of you vote for something and I vote against that, then my vote wins.
The Electoral College of Magic Podcast.
It's a functional and fair political system.
Am I allowed to say that? Ken, cut that out.
Yeah. No, keep it in.
It's the truth. It's science and math. It's all the things that are tangible and real.
If you're listening to this, just heads up, you're listening to very radicalized people. All right, we're out
you're
here.
Canadian.
And like any good Magic player, Sam is also radicalized in his opinions and pet peeves with Magic. So there's a lot to talk about, and I'm really excited because I think these are all topics that we can all judge each other for, and I agree. Come out in the end and having the correct opinion. As per
3
usual.
people will enter this conversation and 1 will leave.
Yes. So Sam's initial pet peeve, I suppose, is a commander as a format. In general,
I think we could save that one. It's tough.
The general malaise of Commander, as well as Sam was asking, am I the bolus for hating on Grubby Sleeves?
Okay. All right. I think we're tucking into this one. I don't think we need the land one right now. I think let's talk the Grubby Sleeves is the right call. Am I the bolus for hating on Grubby Sleeves? Michael Solani, you're up.
Listen, I don't care if you've got grubby, grimy, dirty, squalid, stinky sleeves. All right? It's your property. You can sleeve it or not sleeve it however way you want. Personally, I double sleeve all of my decks with very fresh sleeves all the time. Like if I've played for the same deck for maybe 2 or 3 months, I'm replacing those sleeves because they got my like nasty hand gunk on them, right? But if you want to be an absolute buffoon and just let it pile up and get terrible, it's like leaving a coffee cup on your desk and having it eat through the cup until it spills everywhere. This is not something that just happened to me. Like, if you want to do that, that's fine. And I don't think anyone else should be able to, chastise you for that. I do think that Sam is the bolus. It's not his cards. You can't tell people how to play.
Wow, that's a strong vote right out the gate. Morgan, what about you? How do you feel?
So for those of us who are interested in the correct opinion, please stop having grubby, stinky sleeves. I can tell you, I don't even know if I could tell you the amount of times, because what happens is, picture the scene. It's Friday night, F&M, just got off work. Grab me a little sody, grab me some Cheetos, eat that before I play.
Oh yeah.
Right? And then I go to the bathroom and I wash my hands. And then I come out, I'm shuffling up.
Ooh, personal hygiene.
So fresh and clean. It's a very new thing, but it's transformational, I promise. And so, you've got your standard deck because it's the good old days. It's 2015. We're playing Fetch Lands. It's amazing. The deck is worth $8,000. Shuffle up. And then you're sitting across from Solani. Picture Solani, and Solani's like, great, he's funny, you're riffing, you're having fun, and then he's like, oh, will you cut?
Don't forget attractive.
And a very, very spruced up, attractive makeup pulpit.
I got the blush on.
Gives you his, oh, can you shuffle this for me, please? Can you shuffle my deck for me? And say, yeah, sure, of course. And you grab it, and it's immediately dirt. It's that
nasty.
That nice sheen, and it's got the little pimples, I call them, which is the stuff that sticks to the back, and it's a little black dot, and you think it might be a little bug. Think it may be like a bug that he squished in between doing his little riffle shuffle there. And you're like,
God,
oh my
so
God, I
not
love this
fair.
so much. I love it so much. Solani, oh my God. And then you're like, he's handling your deck and you just see his hands sweating and they're just wet. Your cards are moisturized and he hands it back to you and he says, there you go.
No.
With a bang.
Can I sue you for like libel right now?
And you can only do that if it's untrue. And I'm sorry, but you've put yourself into a hole by going first in this conversation. So all of that
Technically,
to say,
it's also slander because libel is just for print publications.
All
but
of that to
whatever,
say-
Morgan.
I resent that.
all of that to say,
Technicalities.
Slander is spoken. In print, it's libel.
Sam is absolutely not the bolus for disliking Grubby Sleeves because it will ruin your night. And just like, again, you picture the scene, that would ruin your night. Because everything is going great. Solani's a wonderful person, and then he's the grubby sleeve guy. And you have to be like, oh my gosh, like,
Oh no.
I need to go home. I need to dive into the shower.
Wow.
And it's unfortunate.
What a
I have
presentation.
very mixed opinions about what just happened.
What a presentation. So Morgan, you're saying Sam is not the bolus.
Absolutely
Solani,
not.
You're saying he is. I gotta say, Morgan's description was so evocative.
It was visceral.
But-
You're being lied to.
But Michael,
Propaganda.
shut up. Listen, that has more to do with your opponent being gross than the sleeves themselves. I think, here's the thing. I'm with Solani in the sense that it's your stuff. It's your stuff. Do what you want to do with it. However,
Oh, I hate that word.
get out of here. Listen, I'm torn. I'm not going to lie. It's not an easy vote for me. I'll say it's your stuff. Do what you want with it. But I also think, hey, treat your cards to something nice. You spent all this time doing this thing. Put some love into it. It just tells me you don't care. How am I supposed to have fun with somebody who doesn't care? I don't like that. You know what I mean? I love a grubby card. Sam even talked about this. He's a big fan of like cards that look like they've been through hell and back. Cards that have been through a washing machine. If it's still non-sleeve playable, that's a card that we can have fun with. If you put it in a sleeve and it looks a little beat up, and that's kind of fun. I love that. But there's something different about a sleeve. For a sleeve to be gross, it's like, I don't know. Are you like, I could tell if you're a smoker or not. I hate that. I can tell if these were wet before and you didn't dry them up. I can tell. If I can smell them from here, what are you even doing with your life? If there's stuff in the sleeve, that's gross. All this stuff is gross. It might not be the player who is gross because you can sit down and look prim and proper like Solani does. He can sit down across from you, looking good, having freshly showered, bragging about his personal hygiene, telling you that he's got this new cologne and he's like, it smells like diamonds and roses, and you're like, I'm only smelling the roses, but you know what? It is interesting that diamonds do smell. You know what I mean? So it's like he's sitting down, you're like, wow, this is a clean person. Whips out the sleeves and they're nasty. I don't believe you're clean anymore. That's messed up, dude. I don't buy it.
False advertising.
I agree with Sam. Treat your stuff. I would rather see you play unsleeved. I would rather see you play unsleeved than in nasty, nasty sleeves. However, the degree of nasty sleeve needs to be cranked up to like pretty high for me to really give a I'm sorry, Ken, for me to really care at all. I don't care. It's your stuff. Enjoy your stuff. But if I'm sitting next to you and I see the stuff and like it makes it hard for me to read the card because you got garbage in your sleeves, but what are you doing? I'll buy you sleeves. Is this money? I'll buy you sleeves. I will buy you a pack of sleeves. Okay? Does that make it better? All right. Not the bolus. Anyway,
Life hack: if you need new sleeves, just present really dirty ones to Mike, and he'll buy you new ones.
Shit, I shouldn't have set myself up for that.
Pro gamer move.
See you at Commander Sealed, everybody.
All right, fine. I'll lose this one 4-1. Whatever.
There we go, 4-1. Solani, now you get to tell Sam he wasn't the bolus.
The only disgusting thing that you could put in a sleeve is a copy of Rampant Growth.
The only thing
shush.
more disgusting.
That's not even true. I'm sorry. The wave version of Rampant Growth is so iconic. It's beautiful. I love it so much.
I put
The only
in that
thing-
article, I put in like one of the nastiest arts of Rampant Growth I could find, and people are like, "Why are you saying the art's bad? The art's great." I'm like, "Did you not see the specific printing?" No, it's okay. All right.
Sometimes we tag a card and it doesn't come up the right way.
I just got to talk to my therapist about it. It'll be fine.
Oh.
the only thing more disgusting
Uh-huh.
than disgusting sleeves is disgusting land management. That is another
Okay,
one of
We're going in.
that is another one of Sam's pet peeves, and I'll admit,
It is.
just right off the top, that I don't really care how people establish their mana as much as like just don't do the thing where you're playing your lands in front. I've thankfully only played against
I
one
agree.
person like that, and I told them, I said, "Why do you do this?" And they said, "I just think it looks better." And I said, "That's not why you do it. That's not even close to why you do
No,
it."
I don't.
You-
And I'll tell you what, it doesn't look better. And if you're
No.
a stickler who's like, it's how I learned to play because it's in the rules when I was young. It's like, hey buddy, that was 93. That's enough. You know what I mean? You're done. Let's get back to not that. Please stop it. It hurts. Lands in front is wrong. You know what else is wrong? I said this in the interview, but like, hey, if you're gonna put your artifacts and stuff with your lands, just like for ease of like figuring that out while you're like doing your thing, that's fine. But then when you're done doing your thing, put them separate again. Make the piles better to see, easier to
Solani,
look at.
how do you work out your rocks versus mana when you play?
Morgan, I put my lands to the side.
What does that mean?
It doesn't mean that they're in front. And they're not at the back. They're to the side. They're on the side of my playmat. The right side,
What the heck?
if I'm on the right side of the pod, the left side if I'm on the left side of the pod. That's because I always put my commander close to the middle of the pod, which because it's a circle, that could be either the left or the right, right? So I always have my lands farthest away from the center on the side.
So you don't even have them in front of you. I didn't even notice this when we played each other.
Oh, I definitely do it. And my mana rocks,
You know what? If you didn't notice, it must not have bugged
my
you.
mana
You
rocks
know what I
go
mean?
in the bottom where people put their lands. That's how you
Oh,
get them
what
different.
a trip! I see. I'm gonna have to like do this next time, and I wonder if this
Yeah,
is
I'm gonna
some
have
just
to
new
pay
like
attention.
revolutionary thing that I've never seen anybody do, and I've also never experienced. And
No one
I would
blows
like
up
to.
lands. You don't have to see besides like what colors of mana they could tap for, and no one's
Hmm.
really policing what colors of mana people tap for in Commander. Let's be real. Like I know
No,
that
I
was
mean,
a thing in the interview, but
I do it. Sometimes I'll see something come down and be like, how'd you pay for that?
If you skip a pip, it's fine. That's my rule. But I mean, if you're skipping multiple pips, then yeah, you need to figure it out. You got to get like something else in there. But we all do it.
Skipping the pip sounds like some sort of
Skip a pip sounds
propaganda
fun.
headline.
Skip the pip.
It is propaganda
Yeah.
because you're
Save the
skipping the
environment.
pip.
Skip the pip.
You're skipping the pip so that you can pay the cost, and then Caroz is over there just like, yeah, she can pay for that, and it's like, yeah, you thought, but I can't.
I'm paying attention. I'll say, okay, the tapping land 75% of the way is annoying to me. I don't like that one so
Who
much.
does
Tap
that?
it all the way.
Who does that?
Left or right, I don't care, but 90 degrees.
Who
you
does
know?
it?
Jason Alt does that. But and we make fun of him all the time about when I played him, like the 3 times we played in Chicago, I was like, oh, you're doing the thing. When we played online, you're doing it. And he's like, yeah, I do this.
They're
whatever.
crooked. They're not tapped.
Yes,
They're crooked.
Exactly. They're crooked, not tapped.
Maybe if I tap them another 25 degrees, I'll get an extra mana out of them.
Get out of here.
You go full circle.
The thing is, we've already determined that Sam is not the bolus based on the sleeves thing. The lands thing, I feel like we're all on the same page. But I think Sam's other part of the discussion was about how the commander focused design is impacting a whole bunch of things in Magic. And the example given was, of course, Obeka, Splitter of Seconds from Outlaws of Thunder Junction. I believe I brought this up. There isn't anything really happening with upkeeps in that set, and so Obeka is just a 4-mana 2/5 with Menace, and that's not really great for limited. Not really great for a rare, especially in a set where rares mattered so much. It did feel like a bit of a shoehorn situation. And I think Solani, you mentioned in our chat together earlier that you had an idea for chatting about this, discussing about this.
I called it efficiency scape. So
break it down for us.
That's kind of a deep cut term. Basically,
Okay.
The idea is I feel like people in Commander are becoming more and more focused on the efficiency of their decks in a way that's detrimental to trying new things and having fun. Like when Obeka came out, what you said, right? That your 9th Doctor deck, it basically became obsolete because there'd be no reason for you
Well,
to...
I wouldn't put it that way.
But
at
a new
all. For
player,
me,
sure,
Sure,
creating
yes.
it would look at that combination that you've come up with and call that obsolete, more or less.
they'd be like, why not Obeka?
Yeah.
Obeka literally says it on the card.
And I had, even before the 9th Doctor came out, I had an upkeep stack. It was using Paradox Haze and making copies of Paradox Haze to get as many upkeeps as I could on each turn. So the problem becomes when these super niche strategies get an objectively correct commander, the general focus of the player base is to do the most efficient version of that thing instead of trying the different options available to them. You know, they're always going to beeline for the correct choice. And that's really going to harm the ability of players to see a lot of interesting variations on their decks. And that's a significant problem, you know. I think that Wizards likes to shove these kind of correct commanders into standard formats, like you said with Obeka. And it's really apparent when it happens. Like, you could kind of tell that that's what they're doing. And it kind of sucks.
Yeah, I mean, Ariette was another example from that set, right? Ariette the Beguiler, I
Right.
think is the name, where she
steals
uh,
creatures based on auras you have.
permanence based on auras that cost more than
Oh,
the
wow,
permanent they're
permanence.
enchanting.
So
Yeah.
like that set, Wilds of Eldraine, was full of roll tokens.
not
Was it not
Wilds
Wilds?
was,
Oh.
but she was from Outlaws of Thunder Junction.
Oh, that's
the
even
one that we're talking
worse.
about.
See how I get confused
Exactly.
with that sort of stuff? There's no way that you would be
Mhm.
able to pull that off in Outlaws of Thunder Junction.
There's so
just-
little that you can do with that.
It's
kind
just
of,
a plant.
the-
Just put them in like the Commander products,
It's-
honestly.
It's not even a build around. And so I think that, you know, to Sam's point, yeah, I mean, Commander used to be where you put the little weirdos that you couldn't find room for in other decks. Things that really like caught your attention for other reasons. Things that you were like, man, I love how stupid this little guy is. You know?
It's really
Mhm.
tough too when
then-
just kind of the nature of the format has become that, like Solani said, like an efficiency scape, because you're getting all the like,
Mhm.
well, why aren't you doing this? Why this is so much better? And maybe it's a card you've never even heard of because
Exactly.
there's a new product coming out
Exactly.
every other week, and you're like, I didn't even look at Outlaws of Thunder Junction because I don't give a darn tootin' about the West.
Mhm.
And then you see
Can edit
Obeka,
that
and you're
out.
like,
Can bleep
oh
that. We're
wow,
sorry.
Obeka is like
Don't-
wildly busted for no reason. Like, what is
Yeah.
what is there like a flavor thing to this that I missed? You know, and that's all these things that kind of just
and it's wildly busted in not the format it's technically
Yeah.
quote unquote meant for. The thing is, what that means is like there are people being like, what's the most efficient way to do this? And it's not like I hate to use this terminology because it's like what does that matter? But like it's not original. You know what I mean? It's not Commander is an expression of yourself in a way. Like we have plenty of people out there who brew decks that are so in like that show who they are. They're like decks that really want to do a thing that they spent a lot of time to make happen. Decks that people have focused on, you know, navigating Scryfall to find the perfect stupid card for this. And but then there's also like people who are just like, yeah, this list is going to be exactly the most efficient. Why wouldn't I run this card when there's this? Why would I run this card when there's this one that essentially is the same thing for one less mana, you know? And you're like, well, I don't know, maybe because the art's fun, or maybe because it's kind of silly that this exists and the art works with the theme, and maybe this or that. I recently built, speaking of Outlaws of Thunder Junction, Rakdos the Muscle. I'm going to be playing him on a stream tonight, which, sorry folks, this was last week. You missed it. But do you know how many dumb cards I have in here that I didn't know I was going to find a place for? The Rakdos the Muscle, the most important line of text is, whenever you sacrifice another creature, exile cards equal to its mana value from the top of target player's library. Until your next end step, you may play those cards, and mana of any type can be spent to cast those spells. The idea is, I want a bunch of cards that have high mana value, okay? That means I've got a deck that I can finally play Shadow of Mortality in. Shadow of Mortality costs 13 black for a 7/7. That's it. Its cost is reduced based on how the difference between my starting life total and, you know, where I'm at now. So if I've lost 13 life, it's a 7/7 for 2 mana. But ultimately, I play it, or I reanimate it from the graveyard and sacrifice with Rakdos. It draws me 15 cards. And you know what other dumb card I found for this deck? I found a card with Epic that I think works with this deck. Epic, the friggin' mechanic from, what was it, the Saviors of Kamigawa? The mechanic that says for the rest of the game you can't play spells. At the beginning of each of your upkeeps, you copy this spell except for its epic ability. You may choose a new target for the copy. And the card itself is called Undying Flames. 6 mana for a sorcery that says, remove cards from the top of your library from the game until you remove a non-land card. Undying Flames deals damage to target creature or player equal to that card's converted mana cost. So that's old speak for exile the top of your library until you hit a non-land, and then you deal damage to any target equal to the mana value. And the mana value of my cards is stuff like friggin' my 15 mana Shadow of Mortality that I wouldn't dare to put in another deck. It's stuff like my friggin' Hollow Marauder that's a 7 mana creature uncommon from OTJ whose casting cost is reduced by the amount of creatures in my graveyard. It's Dargo not leading a commander deck. I think that's the most fun part about brewing for Commander. It's so good. It's so good to find something silly about a deck you like.
And just imagine, after hearing Carozza go off about how excited he is about those cards, you just go and tell him and say, those cards are unplayable. Why aren't you playing X? Because
Mike,
that's
you're
just a better way.
Sucks.
That's just a better way
incompetent.
to win. It's just a better way. Why would, and I think it's like a pervasive thing in just the Magic community in general, is
It's
this
out there.
efficiency. It's something that permeates any like real constructed format, I think. But sometimes with certain constructive formats, you're looking for the efficiency, but you're also looking for the most ways to kind of go around what your opponents may be doing. But yes, Commander is the fun format of maybe we just let people be excited about things. We had this discussion with Beth in the last episode. Just let people play the stupid fun cards that suck or don't. Objectively, subjectively.
Play the stupid fun
and
cards
let Mike go off on a tangent about these cards that I haven't seen ever or in the last 14 years, and let him be like, it's really brutal. I mean, I think there's a place for it. I think if you want to win, you play a certain type of deck and you play with a certain group of people.
Sure.
If you want to be efficient, like maybe you just don't talk to Carozza about playing other cards because he's just not going to do it. It's not fun. It's not. And really serious.
I want to play dumb stuff.
You are being obnoxious when you go to somebody and give them unsolicited advice. That's the other thing that it comes down to as well.
It's unsolicited. It's really bad.
Like, why? I mean, this is something that we've all probably experienced in that efficienciness. Well, why don't you run X? Well, maybe I don't want to. Maybe I don't know about it. Maybe I don't care. Don't talk about it.
Maybe I did run it and it was too explosive.
Yeah.
Maybe it didn't line up with my play style. Dockside Extortionist is so good, it should be in every red deck. Jessica's Will is so good, it should be in every red deck, regardless of whether or not you play your commander. It's 3 mana for 7 mana most of the time. Or like if you're in a pinch, it's 3 mana for 3 cards in red. And then it can be both. The card's cracked. Should it be in every deck? No. You know why? Because you're building the deck. Sam said something, it was brew for the bit, which I loved. He gives his friends challenges, a theme to build around, to work on, to figure out, and then they all come together and they present it like a gift. And that's another thing that came up in the chat, which is man, what a gift it is to show up to a game and be able to show people something cool. You know, we talked about Cube. Cube is so much fun. Cube is so much fun. Every pack in a Cube is like, I mean, I talked about Angela's Cube, and I'm so excited. I'm hoping to play it again at Commander Sealed. But like, every card in that is like beautiful. It's either the fancy art or his favorite art. He chose the art. He chose these cards. He spent so much time putting this together so that I, his friend, can open up a pack and get excited about being like, oh my God, there's so many good choices here. What do I take? What a beautiful feeling that was. And it's so nice that this is the kind of game that allows for that kind of thing. But what isn't nice is just being like, hey, why are you playing this? This card sucks. There are some people in my life that I feel comfortable talking to about, you know, upping their game. My friend Alex is a longtime friend. We went to college together. He is someone who does not know Commander so well. He doesn't really navigate on Scryfall. He'll buy a card when I suggest it. He's always asking me for ways to improve his gameplay, his decks and stuff. And so with him, when I go through his new deck that he's just put together, I'll ask, what does this do in this deck? And he'll say something to the effect of like, oh, I just had it and I didn't know where else I could put it. I'm like, do you like this card for the deck? And he'll be like, no, not really. Once I find something, I can replace it. That's when I tell him, here's a different card that you can replace it with. But if he tells me, oh, I've always really liked the art and I want to put it in, I get to smile with him because the art's pretty cool and I'm happy he's happy.
And that's how you have that conversation too, by the way.
Yeah.
That was just basically like a how-to as to whether or not you're just, oh, well, what about X? What about X? Because it's always cool too, because sometimes I feel like people are waiting for you to ask them like why a particular card is in a deck if it's something a little bit more like avant-garde or off the list, as it were. Mm-hmm. And so that's exciting. You should be wanting to get people excited about the cards they're playing. I think that if you are like not that type of person, you should just play CEDH with the rest of the CEDH players, because you guys don't look like you're ever having any fun. And that seems like a good place for that kind of stuff.
The other half of the audience turns the
this
podcast off after we completely alienated the wet, stinky players earlier.
Yeah, so they're not even here anymore, to be honest. So
no, let's
Jesus.
be real. Well, CDH has fun. People who play CDH love the game so much, but that's their fun. Efficiency, optimization, that's their fun. My fun is seeing cards that I never thought I'd ever see again. You know what I mean? I saw an article on edhrec.com recently. New writer, I believe his name Ben McCready. Is that it?
Yes.
Yeah, he's got a bunch of cards in that list that you just like don't see everywhere. You know what I mean? He's got cards to add. He's got a bunch of cards in there that I'd never thought I'd be like, let's put this in a deck. And he's got something like Enduring Bond Warden, which is a white for a 0/1 with backup 1. It's a creature human scout. It says when this creature dies, put its counters on target creature you control. I mean, that's perfect for this deck. This guy went through so much to be like, hey, this card is underserved and maybe we can find some cool stuff with it. You know? We've got this other writer for Commander's Herald, Jeff Gurton, who wrote Plot Twist, number 12, Sorin of House Markov. There's a bunch of cards that I never thought I'd see mentioned in articles, like Renounce. Renounce is an instant from Mercadian Masks for 1 and a white. Sacrifice any number of permanents and gain 2 life for each one sacrificed this way. Excuse me. What a fun thing to see. If I'm playing a game and I see you play this card, I'm so stoked. Anyway, I think that's a good place to end it. Find your cards that make people laugh. Find your cards that make people smile. And if those are the most efficient ones, enjoy yourselves. And if they're not, please share them with me because I want to know. I'm your host, Mike Carrozza. Find me at Mike Carrozza, MikeCarrozza. Find me at I The Bolcast on Twitter as well. You can find me online and look for my dates and details for comedy. I'll be in Vermont next weekend, actually this weekend when this comes out, Thursday through Saturday at the Vermont Comedy Club. And catch out my dates and stuff and check that out. Morgan, where can people find you?
I'm on Twitter at Indigo Gentleman.
Michael, what about you?
You could find all of my stuff at gamesfreakessay.info. Those are the letters, not the word essay.
That's right. And thank you for joining us again for another episode of Am I the Bolcast? Check out Sam's channel, Rhystic Studies. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another call. Have a good day or night or whatever time it is. Bye-bye.
Good twilight.